tonight. We've been joined by retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Steve Dobronski. Steve, thanks for being with us today.
Absolutely.
You had the chance to fly F-15, fly in combat missions, because you were just telling me you flew in the no-fly zone during, what, Desert Storm time frame?
Well, it was
after that.
in the 90s and early 2000s when we did the Southern No-Fly Zone over Iraq. So the missions I flew out of were out of Saudi Arabia and then up over Southern Iraq.
What we've got here is your helmet and your flight suit. Give the students an idea about how does this help you, what's in here, and what's the flight suit for?
Okay, we'll start with the similarities. We definitely, in fighters and even in the C-5, you're wearing a Nomex suit. So if there's an emergency, it doesn't stop you from catching on fire, but basically it gives you time to get out of an emergency situation. And that's very similar across the board because there's fuel in all these aircraft and you have to be careful with that. So that's the suit. On the helmet, these are also similarities because we need to talk on the radio, and so a helmet, one of the things it does, it has the headsets and the microphone. So basically it allows you to communicate with other people and keep the noise down because normally cockpits are extremely loud. So this is actually form-fitted to my head, and it's got good tight ear muffs, so basically other people can't hear the outside noise and I can communicate clearly. It also protects, basically gives you a sun visor for the helmet, and then it gives you oxygen. So one difference is the F-15, as you talked about for design requirements, can fly up to about 50,000 feet. And to be up at 50,000 feet, the cockpit needs to be pressurized, and then you also need oxygen, supplemental oxygen. So those are the type of things you need. And then one of the differences is for the F-15 in particular, you're always, and it's designed to dogfight. So when you're up there doing a dogfight.
In case they don't know.
Correct. Dogfight would be when you get in either a one-on-one or it could be two good guys against two bad guys. If you're doing tight maneuvering to try to survive and or try to shoot another aircraft down, and we train a lot to that. That involves a lot of tight maneuvering, very similar to what you saw with the aerobatic aircraft, but you have another airplane in there, and that's why pilots tend to talk with their hands, because you're typically shooting down your watch is the one thing you're talking about. So yeah, you have a big watch and you talk with your hands.
But when you're talking G-forces, you're going at what speed as you fly, and what's your body doing?
So depends on the airplane you're flying, but the F-15 typically you're somewhere in the 400 to 460 mile an hour range. That's indicated airspeed, so it's actually faster depending on the altitude. So you basically have a design specification, what the best maneuvering airspeed is for your aircraft. And that also means that how many Gs can it hold. So the F-15 is designed to 9 Gs, and 9 Gs is going to be similar on most fighter aircraft because that's about what your body can handle. What's going on with the Gs, and that's why you have a G suit, there's other ways to help you, is if you think about the physics class where they put a cup in a piece of string and you spin it around and the water stays in the string, that's a centrifugal force. That force is keeping the water in the cup. Well, if you do that and you're maneuvering in a fighter or even in another smaller airplane, you can, up to 9 Gs is 9 times your weight is what your body's being experienced. So if you weigh 100 pounds, your rear end thinks that you weigh 900 pounds, okay, literally. And so what's going on inside your body physiologically, it's trying to pull your blood, like the water in the cup, down to your feet. So this is designed, it wraps around your ankle up to your waist. They also have a supplemental suit that will be from the waist up to your neck that you can fly. When you're flying it, there's a way to put air in this, so it puffs up and pushes the blood back up. So when you're maneuvering, you're pulling Gs, it's trying to help you, and then if in an F-15 you're talking like Patrick's doing, you'll probably pass out in about 4.5 to 5 seconds because you're not keeping the blood up in your head. So there's techniques, you have to do a lot of weightlifting and exercising, and a strain maneuver to tighten up your legs and your abs to keep the blood up to your head, so while you're maneuvering you can actually keep from passing out. And that's what the G-suit's designed to help you out.
Wow. We also wanted to have you share for sure some information about environmental factors that affect flying. Since you flew in Kuwait, you obviously were dealing with different temperatures. And we had a question that actually came to us interactively, right, Christina, that fits in this beautifully. Let's hear it.
Great, Tim. Taylor wants to know, does the temperature make a difference in how a plane flies?
It does. It makes a big difference, but if you think about what happens to a fluid, if you guys are in a chemistry class, what happens to a fluid when it gets hotter? It gets thinner, right? So oxygen, when it gets hotter, gets thinner as well. So pressure is in that equation. You need basically pressure and the temperature to be right for the aircraft to operate. So when you go higher, the temperature drops And if you guys know, it drops about 3.5 degrees per 1,000 feet. So if you go up to 10,000 feet, it's 30 degrees cooler at 10,000 feet. The F-15 is designed to be up into 30 to 40,000 feet, so you're talking negative 50 degrees Fahrenheit or so. Now, the colder it gets, the denser air gets, right? So the engines and the wings like that. But the higher you go, the lower the pressure is, so the wings and the engine don't like that. So there's a trade-off. And so one thing you do, you like to fly faster, and that's what I like. One of the questions you're asking about is, if you ask an aerodynamicist, how does an airplane fly? It basically has flight controls and a design for a wing. When you ask a propulsion expert, he's going to tell you, well, I have all that other stuff to support my engines. And so we have very large engines, a lot of power, and that helps you go up higher. And if you go faster, the larger inlets, the aerodynamicists have designed the inlets to give the engine the proper amount of airflow so that depending on what airspeed you're going, you have the ability to keep the airplane going. So the older the airplane, typically the lower you have to go for the engines to be able to survive.
Very cool. Very cool.